Intervention prediction by the legendary fortune teller Martin Armstrong. He says in November we will either have Trump or World War III. What Armstrong reports is not just predictions. His musings are based on mathematical formulas and his analytical skills. To prepare for a wild 2024, urges the legendary financial analyst of the Financial and Geopolitical Circle, Martin Armstrong. It should be noted that Armstrong is one of the most important economists of our time. Someone called him the forecaster because that was the title of the movie that helped make his activities known around the world. However, what Armstrong reports is not just predictions. His musings are based on mathematical formulas and his analytical skills. Let's start with Biden's ratings based on Armstrong's Socrates calculator, which is as high as 6 to 7%. He named his computational model Socrates because the oracle at Delphi had said he was the smartest man in Greece, Socrates. As you know, Socrates tried to prove that finance was wrong, and that process proved him right. He was tried and sentenced to death because he knew too much. Armstrong's computer has taught him a lot about geopolitics. As Armstrong explains, quote, "This is old history of draining the swamp, but now the swamp is an ocean. This is completely insane. The prosecutions against Trump show how desperate they are. The reason they want Biden and prevent RFK Jr. from getting the Democratic nomination is because he's just a puppet. He's not really in charge. He doesn't make decisions," end quote. Are globalists in the U.S. deep state panicking over Biden's approval rating? Top brass on both sides know that's an accurate number. With about 4 months to go before the 2024 election, are they panicking with these dismal approval numbers? Armstrong says, "Oh yeah, they're panicking. I have been in politics for more than 40 years. I know how it works. Suddenly you see in the New York Times and Wall Street Journal Biden slipping behind closed doors. They would not do that unless they wanted to. At the Democratic convention, they're going to nominate someone else, probably Hillary." Now, according to Armstrong, the economy and the war are highly connected, and as he explains, about $10 trillion of U.S. debt matures this year. Secretary of State Blinken threatens China with war. China dumped $53 billion in U.S. debt in the first quarter of 2024. This means that the Chinese are sellers and not buyers. And then we have Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen flying to China and begging, "Please don't sell." Did not work. That's why they're talking about an increase in capital gains to 44%. Why? Because if no one buys U.S. debt, then the default will come. If you can't sell new debt to pay off old debt, guess what? This is how governments fall, and I've been warning them for decades that this is how they will end. And that's why they need war, and that's why Europe is going to war. If you can't sell the new debt, you must default. If there is a war, they will go bankrupt and blame Putin. In November, the case will be this. It will be either Trump or the Third World War, regardless of who is on the other side. Whether it's Hillary or Biden, it's the same thing. Hillary is a neocon, and Biden says yes to whatever the neocons want, and the neoconservatives clearly want war, and a big one at that. What could happen in the near future and in the coming years? The fact that we lived and live in a democracy was and is propaganda. We live in parliamentary democracy, so the people are underrepresented and have no right to vote on critical issues. Democracies are historically the most corrupt forms of government compared to a monarchy or dictatorship which cannot be bribed. In a democracy, all representatives without term limits are for sale to the highest bidder. This has resulted in the collapse of trust in governments in both Europe and the US, which has fallen below 30%, the lowest level since World War II. Agents like George Soros, Bill Gates, World Economic Forum promote personal agendas, which further undermine trust in our systems. It's the government that decides whether we go to war or not. People are never asked. The public debt crisis we are facing is a timeless phenomenon. The debt of modern states is not sustainable because governments act in their own self-interest and will always expand debt to stay in power. Historically, these systems collapse when they issue new debt to pay off the old, and no one is around to buy the new debt. Once they can no longer keep borrowing new money, then they inevitably collapse, Armstrong concludes. This is from Banking News. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.